Great. Hi, everyone. I hope you all had a good break with a full tummy. Let's get into yet another engaging session. Let's make the most of our time together discussing how we can ensure that our teams and leadership can be jointly informed as well as take responsibility for security risks, regardless of the tech or domain. I'm Nazneen, and I've been with ThoughtWorks for 11 years, currently playing the role of a lead security consultant, leading the cyber stream of work. I'm responsible to shape and lead the AppSec program for our internal IT operations, and today I'm sharing the lessons from that journey. We at InfoSec used a new approach for our internal IT teams to help them embrace SecDevOps and take accountability. Because unfortunately, though everyone agrees that security is my responsibility, is everyone's responsibility, it is easier said than done. And I find it quite baffling that after reading so many incidents, breaches that question the financial as well as reputational risks of the organizations, security is still an afterthought. You would observe that security is still considered as a checkbox or a gate in many organizations. Whenever we have to release what you'd say, an application to production or a new tool has to be integrated in the tool chain, at that time, InfoSec is reached out, their blessings are sought, and they're like, okay, can you give the green light? That is too late. We started observing a few similar patterns in the delivery teams too. The teams used to get stuck on their security journey. And when they reached InfoSec or reached out to us for help, it was after way too many key decisions were made. It was way too late in the feedback cycle to even start understanding the repercussions of some decisions. And to top it all, capacity in InfoSec was limited, and therefore, InfoSec becomes the bottleneck. Let's zoom into few of these challenges. Ownership and accountability of security was falling onto a team outside the product development team. It was falling onto InfoSec. And why not? The requirements come from InfoSec. We go on talking to teams saying, this is missing. Oh, we found this vulnerability. We think that these secrets are not handled well. So it fuels an already established notion that requirements are coming from security. So security is InfoSec's problem to solve. Literacy, or I would say capability around secure engineering practices, were limited to certain subject matter experts, or in this case, AppSec specialists. And that is not going to scale as the size of the teams grow. There used to be these monthly meetings with the teams, and we hoped that it should be rich technical discussions around security architecture. It should be discussions around, what threat can be mitigated. Whereas it turned out to be just a status call, which was boring because it was not useful for anyone. It was a waste of time for everyone involved. And when we talked to the leads about it, they actually told us that they found it difficult to incorporate the security requirements because they did not have the idea of the bigger picture. You can give them lists and lists of requirements, and how do I map it to the roadmap? It was not clear. So overall, we observed that product owners and leads value progress, but they need context. Teams value autonomy, but they do need help. And InfoSec values security, but we do not scale indefinitely. So something had to change. This ad hoc way of engagement was not working. capability around security was lacking in internal IT, and there was no team passionate enough to take these teams ahead on a journey. And this was a clear indicator that something had to be done to change this way of working. So, a center of excellence was set up to challenge the previous organizational way of enabling security. We set out to do three things. One, make it easier for teams to plan ahead, harness the curiosity, leverage the power of why to allow them to move away from this checkbox security mentality. Second, make it feasible and scalable for teams to, or make it scalable and feasible to support the teams. And third, make sure the progress is visible and measurable, because that will help with data-driven decisions. You would see that security is all about maintaining a state of acceptable risk. And to know what is the acceptable risk, we need data. So one of the main things was making sure we have progress that is visible, and at the same time, it's feeding into useful insights. Overall, I can talk on this topic for us, but I chose to present four key ideas or four key lessons that will highlight this journey we took to achieve some of these goals. We went back to the drawing board and asked ourselves, what will make the process effective for teams? What will click? And using a bit of our change management experience, we made sure not to force change using external triggers. In this case, we started the Security Champion program for our internal IT teams, wherein the Security Champion could be an individual playing any role, a developer, QA, business analyst, XD, and to help them on their journey, to critically question, to think about the security repercussions, a few more steps were planned. We wanted to understand what are the team's current touch points. How do they deliver software today? What makes it easy for them to deliver, things to production? And I have worked on teams. Y'all are pretty, hands-on. So we observed all around that everyone uses a project management tool to understand, these are my priorities, this is how the iteration is going to shape up, these are a few things that have come up as bugs and defects, and all the rituals are around the project management tool. So we went ahead and visualized all the requirements by providing a snapshot of priority 2. This allowed the teams to plan the security journey and incorporate these controls, as we called it, and as part of their roadmap. Having all the controls at one glance, organized by a category and with a timeline, help them to absorb these requirements, help them to absorb these controls by planning ahead. Previously, prior to this setup, we ended up working with the teams, having this call that I mentioned before, and said, "Oh, this is missing. We think all teams should apply or use a different CI/CD. The one we are using is vulnerable, outdated." We ended up adding requirements to the team's already full backlog, already overwhelmed iteration, and these requirements were noted down into a document which was only revisited again during the next meeting. So this helped change the pattern. This mimicked an already known way of working, because we created bit-size controls which were easy to move from backlog to in analysis to development, QA, done. This workflow was known to them. The story cards were small, and at the same time, they had a understanding that now I understand the end goal. I know we have as a team or as a product overall, it has to achieve this security benchmark. let me now plan it in my roadmap. So instead of once the teams are in their development phases and then we add security, teams were encouraged to think about these controls way in the beginning, right from the analysis phase, right from the product kickoff phase. Let me delve a little into into few of these controls. Take secret handling, for example. Secrets, unfortunately, the leakage of secrets is till date one of the highest root causes for incidents. So every control was divided into two main parts, the why and the how. The why, a lot of emphasis was stated on why should I put effort to implement this. We put a lot of case studies. We highlighted recent breaches from known companies that were due to secret leakage. We highlighted commonly made mistakes that if we could avoid, if the teams could avoid, that could increase the confidence of the stakeholders, that could increase the confidence of the product owners. So all the controls had a big section, not big, a section with important points about why anyone should why anyone should spend their effort for implementing this control. And then it went to the how. We called out practices like password manager, putting talisman or git leaks as a pre-commit hook, making sure your secrets are divided per environment. First of all, segregate your environments and then segregate your secrets. And these were like ACs. So it mimicked like, oh, completion of a task or completion of this acceptance criteria can move this to done. Let's take another example. Threat modeling. Every control followed the same way, why and how. But in this control, we added an explicit AC around threat modeling facilitation, or a threat modeling exercise should be done. What this enabled us to do is introduce the stride methodology with which the security champions could then do a threat modeling session for their teams whenever they can, whenever the iteration starts. So we co-facilitated a threat modeling with them. As you can see, we thought about the threats of spoofing, tampering, and if who else could be looking at our data. We tried to ask questions of how can the service be taken down, and we made sure that they get comfortable with the idea of doing this in 90 minutes rather than doing the exercise which runs for a week or for 8 days, not 8 days, 8 hours, but do it quickly, do it regularly, make it a habit. So we paired with each security champion for a threat modeling session for a feature they were kicking off. So this control had an AC where we had made sure that they could complete a threat modeling exercise. So these are some examples of the contents of the controls. So overall, instead of dropping, a monthly ad hoc security requirements, this list of controls now help the teams navigate the security journey. They could think about what is expected security-wise, enable incorporate that in your delivery roadmap, and plan for it. So it made it easier for them rather than like, oh, now I am already having a tight schedule. Also, we tried to make sure that these controls were divided in the delivery phases of the build security in lifecycle. This is a very common visualization known to most of the delivery teams. And we were like, okay, when you see kickoff phase, you should be talking or you should be thinking about, have you completed or at least picked up the control year 1 and 2? And in the build phase, monitor and operate phase was not forgotten, which is normally forgotten after you create a product. It's very commonly forgotten phase of delivery. So all these controls made sure that not only that we're thinking of security way ahead in time, but the controls had a section of tools that teams should incorporate in their path to production. So examples here would be like, as I said, Talisman or Git leaks for secret, if you have leaked secrets in your code base, then Trivy, Cloudsploit, and when you're pushing your code, then it could be Scout Suite if you're using AWS especially, and that could be when you're in the monitor and operating phase, or Sumo Logic, Splunk for logging. So making sure that the team is spending effort wisely so that once they set it up, they don't have to spend time again incorporating tooling and getting feedback too late in their lives in their cycle. So it was moving towards repeatability, making it easier for teams to like once set it up, then we'll work on the vulnerabilities or we'll work on the findings. But it's important to set it up. So the build security in lifecycle also were connected with the controls. Overall, actually before that, like let me, so it's a Friday, it's after lunch, the seats are very comfortable. So I'm very sure there will be a question, why am I still hammering on the why? What is the big deal? And if you take a step back, like as a developer, I have delivered some of my best work when I have understood the business value, when I've understood what am I doing, how is it making an impact. Similarly, we tried to incorporate that in the controls. So the controls had sections to illustrate the context, the value, the outcome with the how, but also the threat it mitigates, the confidence it can increase in your stakeholders by implementing that control. So it highlighted the value, but also how can it reduce your feedback cycle, how can it increase the productivity was the main point of these controls. Overall, this supported our vision to incorporate or to seed the security program within IT. We defined the control, there were ways to complete it that was provided to the team, we paired with them, and though we were the ones who provided the initial controls, we made sure we do not drive this program, right? They are the ones bringing the controls to a completed state. They were moving the cards along the swim lanes. So that improved, or I would say promoted a sense of accomplishment. It led to like a sense of confidence, increase in morale, that we can do development work, analysis work, and bring in security within it. That's a very important thing for any change program that has to be executed in an organization. So that helped with our journey of our culture shift. But overall, we made sure that they feel a big part in doing the work related to improving the security. We use Trello, and this is a snapshot of a board, say, for a homegrown service archetype. We had a small script, like a Python script, which made sure that, okay, there is a template having all the controls that we want the teams to start implementing. If it's a homegrown service, these are the controls that should be pulled in and made into a board and given to the team. That Python script could differentiate the controls per team per archetype of a team, and add the team members and hand it over to them. So there were archetypes. We had homegrown service, integrations for SaaS tooling. We have logical infrastructure like platforms, like API, event platforms, or physical infrastructure. Controls changed, and that was important that we could write a small script to create it. But we did not stop there. We made sure that we had insights from each of these Trello boards to create a visualization, as you see up here. So using Trello webhooks again, we pulled up all the events related to the categories of the controls and pushed it to a collector. So now, for the first time, teams could self-assess their security maturity. Tech principals could understand how their teams are doing related to various categories of controls. There was always an understanding that data was not, or data security is something put to the back burner. That came up as what you'd say, as a trend. Another example is secret leakage could be found, or secrets life cycle is always slow in teams. That would be visible in the trends. But overall, it provided InfoSec a way to understand at the organizational level how our teams doing. This was important because we had an idea, the teams had an idea how they're doing, but never it was available to them to say, oh yeah, I look at it, I can do better. Or, we are doing better here, how can we help other teams in the same account? But the insights were way too low level for CIO, CXO group of stakeholders. So what we ended up doing is the insights that we took from the control board, we shared it with the IT leadership in a monthly governance call, and we did that through a maturity model. So each of these levels were marked on the controls, and they were highlighted like, oh, a team is just getting started. So it's unorganized and reactive. Moving to all controls are implemented, but it's not completely automated. There is progress, but there is scope of making it more repeatable, all the way to the right where it's continuous monitoring and remediation. So there was a way to highlight teams are at what level. Getting all the stakeholders together and being able to discuss the security posture of the teams was very important, was crucial to support the leaders to make data-driven decisions or make informed decisions. Enabling them to take accountability was our outcome, was our goal, but we needed to support it. And we used this model to help them to come together and understand which teams are slow, not from a perspective of, oh yeah, we need to, this is bad. This meant that there is something they can do to support that team to improve their engineering practices. So overall, this model being mapped to the security controls, they could then find out which controls took the most time, which teams needed the most help, and so on, facilitated a lot of such conversations. In fact, this was not one of our intentions, but it led to gamification because the tech principals were like, oh, how do we do better to improve the level? How do we go a level up? And I think healthy gamification is always helpful. We were happy. It led to conversation. It led to bringing back everything back to, yeah, we need to talk about security earlier. Overall, with this visualization, if you'd see, every visualization talked about the controls. So the teams too saw all their reports or all the visualizations connected with the controls, which meant that it led to an effective adoption of the security control board. So it meant then the team saw visualization at a team level or at this, high maturity model level. It was not new to them to understand, okay, yeah, I'm seeing some new data here. Like they could go back to the control board. In fact, it led them to go back to the control board many more times and make a difference or magnify the impact, of AppSec within their team. So the third lesson, I would say, for me and the team was let data tell the story. We started on this a bit late in our program, and that would be a change that I would definitely do if I was to run this again. Overall, the visualization was used across 40 teams, and the leadership could view the team's progress. They could view where they were slow to respond, and how could they be supported. So all these visualization augmented risk-based decision making, and it gave a transparent and clear picture. That was important to make a change. And the fourth important element was about the security champions. And it was about making sure they were nominated rather than, going through this voluntary program. Most of the, blogs and most of the articles, of course, talk about security champions. There was a talk in the morning also which highlighted, let there be, folks who champion a particular practice. And the difference we did was, instead of asking who's interested, would you like to join this program, would you like to be champions, which is great, but we needed to do something better. So we asked all the tech principals, please nominate a security champion from each of your team. What it did is, first of all, the tech principal or the leadership had to know, what are we talking about, who are they wanting to nominate, why are they wanting to nominate them. Second, it rubbed on the importance of security on that team member. So I'm hearing firsthand from my lead that I need to think about security because they are giving importance to it. So I'm empowered to think about secure development right from the nominations, right when we're having the nomination conversation. So nominations were key. And it led to the security champions taking ownership of the work. We paired with them, but they led and they took over the work with the teams, making sure they paired with the other team members, and it helped magnify the impact of AppSec. The third thing was the creation of a community. We didn't want to just have security champions working in silo within their team. So getting them together, we started a group of sessions and trainings to make sure they understand what is it for them in this activity, or what in this program that we are launching. What is the North Star? And then we went on to have sessions about security principles, about threat modeling facilitation, technical topics on security headers, API security. We also went a little broader to talk about, cyber risks and how we do incident response. So they were learning, they were going through and understanding and increasing their awareness of the domain. Yesterday, there was a talk about training, and this led to some 10 to 12 trainings that we did for the security champions, and they could take it further. Overall, the feedback that we got from rollout of this program was that, or I would say the feedback resonated with our hypothesis that the power of why will resonate with the delivery teams, and it will lead to ownership of the secure product practices. And this can be measured by the change in security model. This new model was implemented by 40 teams, as I mentioned before, who vouched for the efficacies of the controls. In fact, as security champions and leaders started talking about how do we move a level up, we knew this had taken home. This was a big step for us to make a change in the culture shift. So, oh yeah, I have to mention, none of the teams or members moved a control for the sake of it. It was not the case that, oh yeah, we have to move a level up, so let's just do it. As they understood the why, they could convert the why in their own context. They always made sure that they were making the right decisions, and then only a control was moving to done. With a few outcomes of this program, what it led to was it provided a bigger picture of the bigger picture of the requirements earlier. So it helped the leads to incorporate security earlier in the life cycle, in the development cycles. It provided ThoughtWorks IT with tools, techniques to deliver quality product including good engineering practices, which actually should anyway include security. It replaced multiple ad hoc discussions that prompted a more in-depth discussion about security delivery. Overall, it led to early discoverability of security vulnerabilities, leading to quick and immediate action, thus leading to less vulnerabilities being pushed to production. Teams were able to plan ahead and absorb these, absorb these controls effectively, and it led to increase in reporting of, incidents or events, because one of our aim was awareness, increase in awareness, and we were like, we don't want to put a metric of, oh, number of incidents reported. Number of incidents reduced. We were like, we want to see more incidents reported, more events reported. So it in fact led to about 25% increase, which was a good number for the first year. And overall, it led to increase in efficiency, because most of the ad hoc engagements were just ad hoc way of working was just removed. So mimicking, I think, familiar workflows, help to better illustrate the context and value, because now they were like, oh, this is known workflow. Also, I'm understanding what's the value and how it can be achieved, and it led to positive outcomes. With that, there are 5 takeaways I would like to leave with you all, if nothing else from this talk. Transforming and championing, a change in mindset towards security is not an easy task. It's an extensive process. It doesn't happen overnight. And fostering relationships, automating workflows that can reduce friction is a great step ahead to achieve that. The goal still stands, to make us self-redundant. We were able to, seed the IT program within this program, security program within IT, and that helped us, at least InfoSec, becoming redundant there. And we were like, oh, you know what? Y'all are the new champions. Y'all can run and deliver it. We'll support. So making ourselves redundant by helping with the value, helping with the context of why these controls are needed. Once the value is understood, once what is required is understood, it's easy from there. So I would like to say thank you. And if you all have any other questions about Security Champion program, about the details of the controls, below are my coordinates. But also there's a detailed blog which I have on the website, on the company's website, and also open for questions now. With that, thank you very much.